Hello everyone, JG here, and welcome to the 14th episode of the Blizzard Audiobook series. If you'd like to follow along, there's a link to Blizzard in the description. All that being said, let's get started. Act 13, Esther the LaPerm. As the stars soared their glory once again in the skies, Rex carried Esther out of the smoking ruins and into the forest, searching around trees and rocks to find a safe place for her to recover. After a while searching, Rex found a small cave in a hillside. He approached it and set Esther down. Then he treated her wounds with his first aid kit, which he had always carried with him in his bag. Once he had treated her, he started a fire and sat down, letting Esther rest. Thank you, Esther said weakly. Don't mention it, Rex said with a smile. Rex, I'm so sorry, Esther said teary-eyed. I know, Rex smiled warmly. I've already forgiven you. Esther sighed and looked out at the night sky. She saw glimpses of beams shooting out of the ground. They seemed to be more active at night, corrupting all who were unfortunate enough to cross paths with them. What do we do now? Esther questioned. I don't know, Rex sighed. The only person who we know is connected with the prophecy has gone mad, as you probably saw. Esther nodded. Do you know where Magnopus was going? Rex asked. Carol was looking for him. He said he was going to some place called the Forgotten Kingdom, Esther answered. They paused for a moment, and Rex contemplated what to say next. Why did you come back to our side? Rex asked for a while in silence. Do you remember that nine-tailed fox we saw in the mural at the Eggman base? Esther asked. Rex nodded. She appeared to me in a vision, and she showed me some events from my past with a stare that changed my mind. She seemed to know everything about my past and all the horrible things I've done. She wanted me to join you. Rex was amazed. You know, if it helps, I can tell you my story, my dealings with Magnopus. It can help us figure out what he's up to, and it can make my actions and accusations more clear to you. Only if you're comfortable and able to tell, Rex replied. I am, Esther said. You have a right to know regardless. I don't remember much of my super early childhood. I only know Elizabeth from what my old caretaker, Dory the Duck, told me. I met her after I sat on the doorstep of this village called Jolinia, out in the savannah by my parents, who I never knew when I was a young kitten. Dory took me in and raised me with all the other orphans in the orphanage. I always had a special connection with Dory. We always talked to her about nature or food, or anything that suited us. The orphanage was connected to a school where all the kids of the village got their education, so I was able to interact with kids outside the orphanage there. The other kids of the village didn't take so kindly to me, however. You see, the village recently placed a ban on all felines in the village, with the exception of tigers. I don't remember exactly why the legal reason was, but I do know that Dory had to fight hard with the village's elders to keep me in her orphanage. The elders said, thanks to the white-haired elder, that I could stay in the village on the condition that even one little slip-up would get me expelled. Due to the ban, pretty much everyone in the village hated me, my fellow kids most of all. This puppy wolf named Vivian hated me especially, and always got on my nerves. She turned most of the school, and by consequence most of the orphanage, against me. But nobody hated me more than these two rich tigers, older than me by 3 years, named Ari and Cade. They ran up to me during lunch one day when I was about 7, so they started teasing me because of my curly hair, something unique to my breed. I told them to go away, but Cade, the smaller one, threw my lunch off the table, and Ari smacked me to the ground. He grabbed me by the shirt and told me, "There's a reason there are no cats in this village." Then he threw me back down to the sand and they walked away. My lunchtime went like that every few days for about 6 months. One day, I sat down in my usual spot when suddenly this floppy-eared dog wearing a sweater, casual shirt and pants walked over to me and sat at my lonely blue table. I always remember her eyes, shifting from pink to mysterious, fulfilling white. "Hi," she said, smiling. My name is Jolene. What's your name?" "Me?" I asked. "Yes, you silly," she said lightheartedly. "Who else should I be talking to?" "My name is Esther," I said nervously. "I heard you talking to Mrs. Duck at the orphanage," she said. "What? How did you know?" I asked. "I'm an orphan too, you know," Jolene said. "Anyway, over here you guys talking about nature and exploration. I love that stuff too. In fact, I saw a really interesting plant over that way." As she said that, she pointed left. "Do you want to see?" "Sure," I told her. Then we went off to look at the plant. As I turned back, I saw Ari and Kate staring at me with murderous thoughts in their eyes. I turned back to Jolene. She was smiling at me with love. I knew that this would be the start of a beautiful friendship. And so it was. Due to our mutual love of nature, they always hung out together exploring the nearby forests, plains, or streams. It also introduced her to Dory, and they got to know each other better. In turn, she introduced me to her friend Rowan, and we also got to know each other better. Jolene, being older than me by 5 years, scared off all my technical abilities so that at least none of them came up to me anymore. So much so that only 2 remained, Ari and Cade. Sometimes when Jolene and I were hanging out together, they would come up to us and tease me. Jolene would back them both off, like a mother defending her child, and they would fall back, but Ari would always threaten me. Whenever I was alone, they'd always try to find me to tease or hurt me. Since the parents of Rex, they couldn't be kicked out of the school or even get in trouble without major consequences for the village. One night, when I was about 10 years old, I was walking around the orphanage until I found Jolene's room. I heard a buzzing sound coming from somewhere in the room, so I went in. When I went in, I saw Jolene sitting at a desk with a computer on. She had a toolbox next to her, and she was working on these strange glowing green gauntlets. "Hey, yes," she said. That was her nickname for me at the time. "Feel free to look around, but please don't touch anything." When I looked around the room, I saw machines and contraptions of all sorts. "Do you invent all this?" I asked. "Yeah, I love to invent in my spare time. It's a hobby I picked up from this young two-tailed fox who visited the village a long time ago, right after my parents passed. He taught me all he knew, and I fell in love with it. The basis is never giving up." Then I walked over to her and looked at what she was building. "What's that? Is it a weapon?" "It's supposed to be," she replied, "but I just can't seem to get it to work." My head was spinning. Earlier that day, those bullies found me, took my lunch, and beat me again. I needed a weapon like that to deliver some real justice to them. So I, disobeying Jolene's command, grabbed the gauntlets and placed them on my hands. "Esther!" Jolene shouted. "What are you doing?" What happened next scarred me forever. My hands were trembling, and I became invisible to the rest of the world. My atoms all changed, and I felt a great aching pain in my heart that has not left me to this day. Suddenly, green electricity started raining around the gauntlets and onto my arms. Then I was shot back into the wall, becoming visible again, and I slammed into a post of a white totem by Jolene's bed. "S, are you okay?" "No," I said in tears. "My heart." "Why on earth would you take my clothes without permission? Something worse could have happened." "I just wanted to deliver some justice to those bullies," I replied. "Justice?" she asked. "Revenge is a better word for it." She paused and looked at the nearby table over her shoulder. A golden aquamarine light was shining from it, contrasting the darkness of the rest of the room. She looked at me and smiled. "That's not what these gloves were made for." Then she wiped away one of my tears. "I know you feel angry at them, but you're better than this. I spoke to you on that fateful day because I know there is more to you than a lonely kid, broken, afraid, without a friend in the world. That's why I promised you that every day we get together on this earth, I will always remain by your side." Then she hugged me. Esther paused and shed a tear. Then she continued. She fulfilled her promise perfectly. The two of us did so much as friends. We explored all the area a mile out of the village. We swam. She tried to teach me how to ice skate. She perfected her gauntlets, gave them to me, and taught me how to use them. We hung out in her room and drew, learned how to fight from the village guard, and we even discovered a new type of flower called the Esther lily. Go look it up. It's true. Esther took a deep breath of sorrow. "Are you sure you can go on?" Rex asked. "Don't worry about me," Esther smiled. "I need to revisit the dreadful night I will never forget, for both my sake and yours." 2 years after the incident with the gloves, Jolene and I were out exploring, but we stayed out too long. At a certain time in the evening, our village closed its gates to prevent any intruders from entering. When Jolene and I went back to the village, we found the gates were shut. "Well," Jolene said calmly, "I guess we'll just have to camp out in the forest." I was excited initially. I'd never gone camping before, so Jolene and I marched back into the forest to search for a good place to set up camp. As we were walking, we heard other big, deeper footsteps. Jolene motioned me to stop and be quiet as the footsteps got louder. Then, from out of the forest, was none other than Ari and Cade. "You guys again?" my friend sighed. "Why am I not surprised?" Cade looked normal, but something was different in Ari's eyes. "Don't worry," Cade said sarcastically. "We're just here to take Esther home." "Yeah," Ari said suspiciously. "Home." "Knock it off," Jolene said as I was cowering behind her. "What are you guys doing out here so late anyway?" "We're just out admiring the stars," Cade said. "Yeah," Ari said, looking down. "Okay, well, go away. We don't want you here," Jolene said defensively. "Why not?" Cade asked foolishly. "You know why not. For some reason you won't stop teasing and beating Esther. This has been going on for way too long. What is your problem with her?" "You know the ban," Cade explained. "She's a violation of the honor of our village." "That ban is the real violation," Jolene noted. When my friend spoke those words, something snapped inside Ari. I noticed a change in him these past few weeks. He had been acting more and more violently, not just towards me, but towards everyone. "That ban," Ari said, his eyes flashing horribly, "is who I am." Even Cade looked confused. What is that supposed to mean?" Jolene asked, dumbfounded. "It means that ban shaped my whole life. Do you want to know why we keep torturing Esther? Because she's a cat, and cats are murderers. But Esther's only a kid. One of the sweetest kids I've ever known. What's wrong with her? Jolene asked. She's still a cat! Ari screeched. And cats killed my father, so I must kill her! Then he reached into his pocket and grabbed a pistol. Jolene and I froze. No one expected Ari to go that far. Not even Cade. Whoa, dude, chill. She's just a kid. Put the gun down, he said. Ari's hands were trembling, and so were mine. I don't think he really knew what he was doing. He pointed his gun at me, but Jolene was blocking. Then my friend whispered to me, Listen, when I tell you to, I want you to run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. I'm going to find a way to stop these guys. I nodded. We stood there for what seemed to be hours. My heart started to ache again. Then, as fast as lightning, Jolene whispered to me, Run! Then she tackled Ari with all her strength. I bolted into the forest as fast as my little legs could carry me. I was so nervous, scared, angry, and sad, I just wanted to disappear. My gloves reacted to this feeling and changed my arms into gas, turning me invisible. As I ran, I heard a scream, and then a loud bang. I did not know what that was at the time, but in my later years I found out that it was a gun. But I did recognize that scream as Jolene, so I, still shaking profoundly, turned back to see if she was okay. As I ran back, I heard loud footsteps. It was Ari. He had splotches of blood on him. My heart stopped and my body froze. Then I remembered I was invisible, so I just stood completely still. His head turned from left to right. He was looking for something, or someone. He seemed just as scared as I was. Then he turned around and went back to the village. I got out from behind a tree and ran as fast as I could to find Jolene, the inventor of the gauntlets, my best friend, the sister I never had. As Esther told this part of the story, light tears were streaming down her face as Rex sat there in front of her, uninterrupting, moved by the pain she experienced. She continued, I ran through the forest until I found a body on the ground, soaked in blood. I went to the head of it. Sure enough, it was Jolene, with a great gunshot wound in her chest, out of which blood was fatally pouring. I knelt in front of her. S, she said, her eyes slowly closing. Remember, use your gauntlets the right way. She coughed up blood. Yes, I said, grasping her hand. I will always remember what you taught me. Not just that, she said. Always pursue the way of justice, but more than that, the way of mercy and love. She smiled as her eyes closed for the last time. I love you, Esther. Always remember that. Then she passed away under the stars. I dropped her hand. I lay there next to her, wept that whole night and well into the next day, not eating or drinking anything. Tired of the tears, I fell asleep. The next morning, I went to a nearby stream for water in order to gain some energy for what I was to do that day. I went back to Jolene's corpse, and I, with my bare paws and gauntlets, dug out a grave for her with my sweat and tears. I then placed her beautiful body in the hole and set all the dirt back. Then I set back into the forest in search of rocks and flowers. Thankfully, I found plenty and set them all up around the grave. I even found an Esther lily which I placed at the center. Then I curled up into a ball and wept until I fell asleep. The next day, I decided I would make my way back to the village. I thought Doria was pretty worried. Once I finally found my way back at about midday, a large crowd was assembled at the front of the gates. Look! A voice cried. There she is! The guy who murdered Jolene! I was very confused. I saw her! Cade shouted from the front of the crowd. They were in the forest late at night playing when all of a sudden Ezra put out a gun and started shooting Jolene. I always knew there was something wrong with that cat, the villagers murmured. That's why this village has rules, so they are followed. Who else could it have been? They were always together. None of my friends or allies who were there, including Dory, said anything. I felt angry and betrayed. What is going on here? The chief elder shouted as he marched out of the village gates. The village replied, This cat murdered an orphan. What? The elder shouted. Do we have any proof of this? We have 2 witnesses, the village shouted. Then they pointed to Ara and Cade. Oh, the elder sighed, not believing the tigers for a second. I see. Then he walked over to me. I told you, kid, no slip-ups. Since you are only a child, I have to use my power and authority as the head elder to banish you from this village. I have no other choice. Be grateful that nothing worse happens to you. My heart broke. I wish I could die with Jolene. Then he spoke to the crowd. People of this village, he said, By the power vested in me as the head elder and leader, I hereby banish Esther the LaPerm from this village forever." The crowd kept calling for death, and they followed the elder back into the village, begging and pleading for my demise. The village guard who trained me silently shut the gates, and I was left alone. I had nothing to do and nowhere to go, so eventually I made my way to the big city, looking for food and a way to make money. After a few days of crying around on the filthy, dark streets, I found a wolf getting mugged by a Komodo dragon and an alligator. I, remembering what Jolene taught me about justice, went to this wolf's rescue. I slammed my hands together and used my strength to beat both the dragon and the alligator. The wolf thanked me and asked me who I was. I replied that I was a scavenger, looking for a job and a place to call home. "How would you like to do a little something for me?" the wolf asked. "You seem mighty powerful, which is perfect for this line of work. In return, I'll grant you a great load of cash." "What do you want?" I asked innocently. "Kill this man." Then he pulled out a picture that said, "Wanted dead, $2,000 cash reward." "Oh," I said nervously, remembering Jolene's last words. "I'm not really into that kind of work." "Why not?" the wolf asked. "All we're doing is providing a bit of justice for the people. The man I'm after is a very evil man. Yes, very evil." I remember what Jolene said to me at justice once again. Then I looked down at my gloves. Is this what she wants of me? I asked myself. I do need a way to survive, and this is providing justice. That settles it. I will make money this way, but I'll only target evil people, providing justice, like Jolene asked for. "I'll do it." "Excellent," the wolf replied. Then he pointed to a tall black building. "He lives on floor 5, room 507 in that building. Stick it through the ventilation system. It should fit you. And if someone asks you for your name, never tell." "I don't need the ventilation system," I said, turning myself invisible and making my way towards the building. Once I arrived at the building, it was pitch black out. I went up the stairs undetected, and I entered the guy's room. He had many goons walking around the building, which I was able to avoid thanks to the gauntlets. I went into his bedroom where he was sleeping, and I clashed my fists together and cracked his neck so he died. I was trembling. It was the first time I'd ever killed someone. Even though that man was evil, I felt bad killing him in cold blood, invisible while he was asleep. I left the building and arrived back where I first met the wolf. He was sitting with a bunch of his other clients of all species. "There she is!" he shouted. "That's the cat who killed the tortoise!" Apparently, he was a great mob boss in the city, and they were trying to kill him for a long time, but I just effortlessly did so. They all called on me to take their bounties, but I told them I would only kill evil people. So that is how I got involved in crime. Gradually, I let go of my moral code, and I would take any bounty there was. Due to this and my gauntlets, in 3 years, I dominated the city's crime scene, being known as the Mistress of the Wind. I would punch victims, choke them, stab them, shoot them, any way to kill worked. Whenever I remembered Jolene in my village, I would do whatever I could to try and forget, sometimes bringing me to dark places. I had so much money I didn't know what to do with it. I had an empty hole in my heart that could never be filled. Such was life in the city. One night at 14 years old, I was sitting in the tavern where all the hunters gathered due to remembering Jolene, and my self-control was faltering. Suddenly, this large snow leopard walked up to the counter. He looked he was looking for someone, until he looked down and saw me. He saw my gauntlets and said, "You? You're the Mistress of the Wind?" I nodded. "You're a little younger than I expected, but you're going to have to do." Then he sat down next to me. "I'm here to help you, Esther." My eyes flashed. "How do you know my name?" "Let's just say I have good sources for information. I'm here to help you restore justice. I know what happened at your village. You were kicked out unfairly by the false witness of those tigers." I was shocked at how much this guy knew about me. He continued, "I can help you restore your good name. Together you, I, and a few friends can go to your old village and kick out those bullies, and you could be the one to deliver true justice. If you work for me, of course. Your offer will be mostly the same, as if you take orders from me, chiefly." "Sorry, dude," I said. "That's a tempting offer, but I don't exactly know who you are." The leopard slammed his fist on the counter and said, "You don't know who I am? Listen, kid, do you know who is at the center for every crime you ever pulled? You know the motive behind every bounty you've ever taken? It's me. I, Magnopus, rule this world, if you like it or not. You are the one bounty hunter who is not yet in my grasp. As a hunter, you either do what I say or perish, intentionally or unintentionally. So, are you left me, or are you not?" I was very intimidated by this Magnopus character. He spoke with real power, no bluffing in his voice. If he was at the center of all crime, did I have any choice but to obey? "I accept," I told him. "Let's fix that village." "Great," he said. "Come with me." We made our way to this great, tall building. He led me up the steps and onto the roof where a black helicopter was sitting there. He let me in, and he told the pilot to take us to the village. Once we arrived, it was morning. 2 guards were, guarding the village as Magnopus and I tried to enter. They blocked us, but Magnopus looked at each of them once and they let us pass. All the villagers stared at us as we entered into the village and made our way to the town hall, where a big meeting was going on. Once we arrived, we saw a big congregation of the people staring at us, and, sitting at the front, was none other than the 2 bullies, Cade and Ari, having taken the head eldest place after his passing, were leading the meetings and wooing the rest of the town. One of the villagers recognized my gauntlet and shouted, "This is that cat who shot the orphan!" Everyone gasped and started shouting to kill me on the spot and other things like that. "Silence!" Cade shouted. Ari was looking down at the floor. "Let us hear what that cat has to say." "My boss and I are here to restore justice to this town," I said. "Justice?" the villagers muttered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "That cat works worse than when we last saw her. Much more evil. Who is that guy with her? He's giving me real bad vibes." "You don't suppose they'll kill the new bosses as revenge for banishing the cat, do you?" "Soon to look the gods!" Ari sent for the gods, and he told them to kick us out. As they walked over to us, Magnopus stomped twice. Suddenly, about 200 bounty hunters burst into the room, crashed through walls, and started slaughtering people. I was petrified. I knew some of these people from my childhood, and despite my moral life, it hurt greatly to see them killed. I had never seen so much blood. Without a word, Magnopus too leaped into the fray, drawing his 2 swords. He jumped into this hippo on which Kari and I were panicking, and he slashed both their heads off in a single swing. Esther once again started crying. "Sorry, it's very hard for me to go to these places again," she said. "It's okay," Rex replied. "You don't have to continue if you don't want to." "I want to," Esther said. Then she continued. The hunters set fire to the town, and all of Jolinia started to fall apart. I escaped from the building into the havoc that was in the streets. Hunters were slaughtering all kinds of animals, even women and children. The guards started attacking me, and out of self-defense, I began to fight. Once the whole town was destroyed and all the people were dead, Magnopus stood in the middle of the town and declared, "Justice has been restored!" I walked around the ruins of the town where I grew up. I recognized all the places where I went with Jolene, until finally I spotted the ruins of the orphanage. I crouched down in front of it. Then I finally arose and broke down crying, tears flooding my vision. Suddenly, I felt a large slap on the back of my head. It was Magnopus, his strength knocking me to the ground. "You're one of us now, mistress," he cackled. "There's no mercy in the life of a hunter." Then a bunch of helicopters flew down to take us all back to the base. I had no choice but to go with them. Ever since then, I've worked for Magnopus. It started out at the lowest rank, but over the 3 years I worked for him, I rose to the second place position. Just behind Magnopus himself. My relationship with the boss was a complicated one. Sometimes I was his greatest asset, and other times, whenever I showed emotion, I was a worthless failure. He would hit me whenever I messed up. Life felt like an empty void every day. I don't know how else to describe it. My life was like that, until I received a mission to kill the last Arctic fox. With her story finally complete, Esther smiled. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea you'd gone through so much," said Rex. "It's okay," Esther said calmly. "I'm the one who should be apologizing. By the way, if Carol ever goes back to normal, tell him to. He needs to know." Rex nodded. Suddenly, Esther stood up, trembling from her forgotten pain. It did not hurt as much now, after letting all that emotional baggage go, but it still felt awful. "Whoa, Esther," Rex said, concerned. "You need to rest." "No, I'm fine," Esther said. "Listen, something is up with Magnopus of the Forgotten Kingdom. He said he had a great idea regarding Carol. I'm worried something could happen to him." "I agree," said Rex. "We should go after him." As they went out of the cave, the sun started to creep over the tops of the trees, and the fire from the helicopter rumors was put out due to a light rainstorm the night before. "I don't know how much time we have," Esther realized. Rex reached into his bag and pulled out his glider. "This is my rocket boosted hang glider. It can reach up to speeds of 100 miles per hour. "That's great," Esther said. "Only, how will I ever go as fast to keep up with that?" "Come into my legs while I'm on the glider," Rex replied. "I've seen some heroes do something similar to that before." Esther did as Rex suggested, and the two zoomed off to find the Forgotten Kingdom.